I have to say that maybe you could deserve certain credit. I think sometimes, and this pertains to our informal conversations, where it seems you've been intimating more often than not foreseeing a type of downfall of Lebanon and a big downfall, that they're setting themselves up for a big downfall. And in the meantime, it seems like what you said was fairly accurate. In other words, most people believed the thousands of missile a day scenario where we would lose our electricity. And I mean, who knows? I don't know if there's still a possibility that could happen in the future, but based from Lebanon, I don't know. I don't know what they still have. That's also an interesting question. But at least seemingly in the meantime, it seems like maybe you were right in feeling that their downfall would be more of the focus than whatever we might be taking in.
Bezrat Hashem, I hope that remains the case and that it also applies to Iran. There was a shiur that I did, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, titled Hashem Will Smash the Cedars of Lebanon.
Yeah. As I was saying, the informal conversations, it was starting to come to my mind that it wasn't just the informal conversations.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the point is it has played out that way, and I wasn't thinking about Syria, but even more so, that's what's happened exactly in Syria, is that all of these places are these corrupt messes held together with tape and glue, where you have all these different factions at each other's throats that are all murderers and want each other dead. And so you don't actually need to hit them as hard as you think, because it's not about there being this well-run machine that you have to somehow overwhelm despite its might and enormousness. It's that the whole thing is on clay feet, right? And that it can just come crashing down and tear itself to pieces. If you just, that's the whole David and Goliath thing. Is like, if you just get the stone in the right place, the whole thing can come crashing down. And I think with Lebanon, that's been clear. With Iran, that's clear, right? Lebanon is a 5-way civil war waiting to happen. And Syria was already clear was in a civil war, but I think anticipating that could flare up, it wasn't on my radar. But anyway, Iran also is a 5-way civil war waiting to happen. If between the Kurds and the Baluchis and the Persians, and there's the people who hate the regime, and then there's the Islamists, and when you add it all up, it looks very formidable if you calculate a certain way, and then you sort of change your perspective, and it's like these places are all barely holding themselves together. And if we just stick with Torah and stick with HaKadosh Baruch Hu enough to stand against them more than they expect and hit them a bit harder than they expect that we're willing to, then the whole thing can just come apart. And I think it was clear that was a possibility with Lebanon. I never imagined that something as wondrous as, we could do that to Lebanon and then Syria could come, like we get Syria for free. I mean, in a way, when you see it happening, you're like, oh yeah, because actually, Hezbollah is part of what was holding Syria together, as it turns out. But you don't. So I wasn't enough of a strategic chess thinker to realize that was in the cards once we really hit Hezbollah really hard. But I was very expectant once it was clear that Bibi and the leadership were going to tell the Americans to go jump in the sea with their false gods and actually really hit them hard, right? Go for Nasrallah, go for the leadership, do these amazing operations of devastation against Hezbollah that were not really the ones being recommended or permitted by the Americans. That's the sort of the Eliyahu formula of, if you just turn away from the false gods and unite around the idea that other people's false gods are stupid, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will open the gates of heaven for you. And so it felt to me like, okay, something really good is going to come from this, Bezrat Hashem. And I think that was the potential I was trying to describe in that shiur I don't know, maybe it was 6 months ago, but the one about the Cedars of Lebanon, I think it still may have implications we don't even yet, people are maybe beginning to appreciate, but we haven't seen yet for Iran, for example. Um, but already with Syria, that it's massive and it's really dazzling. Hakadosh Baruch Hu just needs to tilt his hand a little bit because again, these places are so run, right? It's not just that they're fractured and they have a bunch of ethnicities or religious groups or whatever. It's also that when you base a society on hatred of Am Yisrael, that means you have a wicked society. When you have a wicked society, it's not a resilient society. It's not a fair and just society. It's not a society in which people have a genuine ability to take care of each other. It's a bunch of Rishaim with knives to each other's throats that are barely more interested in killing the Jews for the moment. But if you can just kind of tip the balance, then they eat each other. And that's clearly been potentially the case in Lebanon for a long time. Clearly also in Syria, and it's true of Iran as well.
There's another interesting aspect of what's been going on a psychological slash spiritual level. During the last year, there just seems to always be one surprise after the other, a sense of not knowing what's going to happen next, and then being surprised by the next move. People weren't sure, will Bibi go into Rafiach? He did go into Rafiach. They weren't sure, would he go into Lebanon? He did go into Lebanon. Then we weren't sure what the result would be, and then we saw the result in Lebanon, at least in the meantime. And then the next surprise was Syria. It makes you feel that there's more surprises on the way, such as Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're certainly living in times when we shouldn't assume we can see how all the dominoes will eventually fall. And that I think is what it comes back to is that when Tanakh is teaching us about how to trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu when we act, on the world stage or militarily or, as a nation, there is this way in which it's kind of trying to show us it's not like a science of the miraculous because that's a contradiction in terms. You're not meant to be able to see how it all fits together and anticipate all the complexity of which domino falls when and what affects what. But it's more like you're meant to be able to trust that the Torah, taking the Torah as a guide, is a way of doing more to determine the outcome of this unpredictable and complex process than if you were trying to rationalize it step by step. Like when you try to calculate it in a minute by minute way, it very quickly gets beyond you in terms of, well, this could happen, or if not this, then something else. And depending on one thing happening or the other, then you have this sort of forking paths and you can't keep track of all the possibilities or really assign likelihoods to them. But if you are setting your policy based on what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching you about how the nation can maintain itself in this little strip of land at the crossroads of three continents, that's what the Torah is. It's a cheat sheet for how do you miraculously survive. And when you do miraculously survive, I don't think the story is meant to be at the end always it was only because of incomprehensible magic. Like when you look backwards at the past and try to explain, how could this have happened, you do find that there are explanations, so to speak. But the point is that these are somehow explanations that no one ever felt comfortable planning on in a narrow prudential sense, that it requires trusting in HaKadosh Baruch Hu and trusting in the way that he's taught you to make that stand, and then you are positioned basically to lodge the stone in Goliath's forehead, or however you want to put it. And so I think it's the the degree to which there's more and more dominoes that might fall, it has to do with our zchut, and whether we can stay the course and merit it. But it is, at the end of the day, it's not just kind of a science of, oh, they're rotten societies and they're not resilient. If you really kind of try to be too planful about it, I don't think you can play the game where you can make the next domino fall that you want. But it's more like, if you trust in Hashem, you stand for the right things, and you land the right punches when you're supposed to. Then you can be dazzled by how far a little nudge here and there can go against enemies like these, and that is sort of built into the nature of what the Torah is asking us to do. It's kind of, from a certain standpoint, the Torah is designed to bring about success in a complex world based on the sort of end game of complexity that you can't calculate, but that the Torah has some kind of window into.